running it on AWS, you don't need to worry about managing the infrastructure, right? You don't have like Python, write it in any language that you like, give a lambda function. AWS will be the one managing the server and all that. All you need to do is provision the lambda function. It's going to work. So for this particular presentation, I'm going to be using the lambda function at different instances. Now, the first lambda function here is going to be streaming the machine learning service that I talked about, which is called Amazon Machine. As I said, Amazon Machine is a machine learning powered service. What does Amazon Machine do? It helps you to take your data, analyze it, isolate the ones that are against the laws that you have set. After doing the analyzation, we do a sort of tagging. After doing the tagging, it's left with enough to decide what you want to do. Right? Why? Most times, companies make use of Amazon Machine when they are doing personal identifying data, which is what we are pointing at the point of user putting the data on the web app. So once this lambda function triggers this Amazon Machine, which is called data, you're going to run a job. That job, if you look at it, the job is going to start. Once it starts, it's going to trigger another event which that event which is going to trigger SMS notification service. What's that SMS notification service? It's not a notification service for AWS that is used for less complex. Now, it's going to tell this user, see, let me use this particular that see, you started the job on a particular set of data, not the documents, and this particular time, based on the criteria that were defined, these are particular criteria that are not supposed to be based on the policies of the company. It's going to trigger a mail and send the mail to the user stating that these data are analyzed. At this point, I'm currently analyzing this data and I'm seeing that this data is sensitive data that is going against the laws that are set for this. That's just it. Now, once the job is done, the next function I have here, I want this function to check if this particular job or this particular service, the machine learning service is done with the scanning. That's what this function is going to do, right? It's either it is running or it is completed. If it is complete, if you look at it here, if it is complete, right, it's going to check if this particular machine learning service is in complete state. If it is complete, it's going to go ahead to this next function. If it is not complete, right, it's going to wait a particular period of time, which is why I say, right, when you are using step functions, which is positions, or any configuration, check if this particular thing is not done, wait for this particular thing. Right, so when it has checked that it has validated that this particular function or this process is done, it's going to go ahead to this next lambda function, which I just said put down. Now, what this code is going to do? This code is going to check the process of the project that's analyzed by the machine learning service. How many are being made to operate like three objects or three files, right? Objects for machine has done, that machine is done. Now, this particular code, if you use lambda, is going to check the kind of that set, that particular those files that are access to the that's what that particular function is. Once that function is done, it's completed. It's going to check now. We are checking out this code. This guy is checking the class. But then there's also a validation you can check. Is the sensitive data because the machine learning system is analyzed? If they are sensitive data, trigger this recognition function. If there is no sensitive data, then it's sensitive. Now, what's this recognition function? The code I just using is just what's just that if you look at the files that are analyzed, there are some, like I said, Amazon has a machine learning service. What it does is that if you look at the data, this data can be sensitive data. Yes, it has sensitive data. Maybe out of 5, 3 has sensitive data. It's going to tag those 3 5, right? Now, this recognition function does do if you take the 3 5 that has sensitive data, take it out of this bucket, then create the initial files. Take it out and put it in the quarantine bucket. The ones that is put it in another bucket, this it's going to inform, maybe the administrator or the person in charge of governance or the company that, see, I've analyzed this number of files, and this number of files that I've seen as personal data, which is just lost, right? Kindly look at how you take the bucket and put them in a separate bucket. Kindly look at them. That is right. So basically, it's more or less possible that we actually send the AWS and the first review our data, check if we are compliant with the governance law or the local laws of the environment in regards to data. Now, so I'm just going to start. But please, do we all understand this architecture before I proceed? Thanks. So, like I stated earlier on back, I said we start about someone is going to put in personal identifiable data, which we are already said through that these data, we don't know them, we are not supposed to collect this type of data. So, just be remember. This is instead of the server, just going to put it. First one is the initial bucket that saves the files that we get from the web app, right? We don't know at that point if those files have sensitive data or they don't have sensitive data. Now, after the machine learning service has done its own job and all that and run all these different steps, we are going to move the ones that have sensitive data into another bucket so that someone in charge of that in your company can review it. Why the other person can, why the ones that are clean are moved into another bucket entirely. So there are 3 buckets that we're looking at here, 3 storage. So I'm just going to open those buckets. Buckets here, quarantine buckets where files that are sensitive, that have PIs are placed. The scan bucket is going to have files that are clean, while the source bucket is going to be the bucket hosting the files directly from the web app. So they are all empty. Yeah, they are all empty. So let's start getting those personal identifiable data. We've submitted the one for the credit card. For patient information, I'm just going to use the data here. This patient is HIV positive. These are data that I'm not even supposed to collect. It's against the law, right? There's no reason why you should be collecting BVN in the hospital. For what? So I'm going to submit this. Then these are access keys. We all know we are all tech people now. We know that our access keys are not something you are supposed to be submitting on an online form. So if someone is asking for access key, this particular form is asking for that, and I'm also providing it. I'm going to submit that. Okay? So if you go back and check our initial buckets, I'll always be coming back to this architecture so that you can understand what is going on. If you check this initial bucket, which is where we are getting data from the web app, we have just filled in some forms with some personal identifiable data. Those files are supposed to be in that particular bucket, which was empty earlier on. So if you go back and check now, which is the source bucket, we should have those files. Now we have 3 files here. We have the credit card, we have the employee one, we have the employee one, we have the one for the access keys. We have 3 files in this bucket now. Now I'm going to upload 2 clean files that do not have PII data, right? So that we can see the work that is being done by the machine learning service. So I'm just going to upload 2 different clean files. So I've just uploaded 2 files that are clean. There are 3 files here that got data from the web app that have PII data. Why there are 2 clean files here. At the end of this whole process, 2 of those files that are clean are supposed to be moved to another folder. Why the ones that are against AI laws, against data laws, right, are supposed to be moved to another folder so that people can review it and know the right step of action to take. Right, back to our architectural diagram. So I talked about event bridge, which I told you is triggered by time or event. We use it to trigger the AWS step functions, which is more or less like an orchestration tool where we have written different codes and all that. And it's inside that step function that we have this particular item here, this particular function here. All these are written in Python code. This particular function triggers the AWS machine learning service. And that AWS machine learning service is called Massey. For Massey, I'd already written some custom identifiers, some regular expressions I don't want to see in my data, right? So I'm just going to go ahead to event bridge so that I can trigger that particular AWS step function. Like I stated earlier, this particular step function, it's time-based, right? Sorry, this particular event bridge is time-based. I'm going to check the current time now, and I'm going to add some minutes so that you guys will see it in live action, triggering the orchestration tool that I talked about earlier on. So our current time is 1:20. So that should be 13. This 1:20. So I'm going to make it 13:22. And I'm going to click next. I'm going to click next. I'm going to click next. And I'm going to save this. So in the next 2 minutes, it's supposed to trigger the orchestration tool where we have our machine learning service, where we define the logic for our machine learning service, and that will soon be done. So I'm going to, okay, just hold on, just hold on and look. So I need to change something at this point. Change something. It's not going to work because I need to change the line of code here. Just going to need
I just need to change the name of a particular job because I think the name of this particular code has a different. Network is not steady. Can you hear me check? Okay. I need to help me check this stuff. I need to change this guy. So I'm going to go back now. Sorry, I need to trigger this guy again because that state machine is going to fail. If I refresh this, you will see that it's going to fail. It's triggered it, but it failed because I have not changed the name of that job. So now I'm going to trigger it again. What's the current time? The current time is 123. So let's put it to 125. I'll click next. I'll click next. I'll click next. I'll save this schedule. So let's hold on and see what's going to happen here by 125. So basically I'm waiting for to come back to my architectural diagram. I'm waiting for this guy here to trigger this orchestration service on AWS where I have different services, the machine learning service and the different codes. So by 125 it's supposed to kickstart the job. Yeah, sure.
Thanks so much. I would say that what you are referring to here is cloud computing architecture based on AWS, right? So what happens if I decide to go out of the AWS subscription and then go to an independent cloud provider and then I make use of UTM along with it? Because I would say that all of this architecture is no more different with using the UTM to support a cloud-based solution.
So, based on what you just asked, one thing about when you talk about IT and all that, it's not restricted to a particular maybe organization or service and all that. These services you are seeing here, a lot of them you can find them on other cloud providers. You can find them elsewhere. The only benefit you get from making use of AWS services is the fact that AWS is the longest in the game. They have hundreds of services across the world, right? And when you talk about cloud, don't forget that the concept of cloud, there's a data center somewhere that is running all these services, right? So that means that this the way we want to scale our business, cloud providers also want to scale their business. So that means that maybe in Nigeria, now currently in Nigeria, AWS has a data center in Lagos. I hope you're all aware. And that data center, you cannot, all these services are used there. The step function, even event reach, you can't find it in Lagos data center, right? So that tells you that even them, they can't give you everything at every point in time, right? So based on what you just said, if you feel that based on your business operations, no, we've triggered it. If you feel that based on your business operations, you have other services or other organizations to use, that's fine, right? But we all know that when it comes to scaling up so quick, you definitely need to come to the cloud. And when you come to the cloud, you start thinking about AWS because they are the number one. So by now, our step function should have started. So I'll come back here and see. So if you see, it's running, right? It was triggered by that event. So this is the architectural diagram of what is going on currently. It has triggered the Amazon message job. So I'm going to go there now so that you can see that it's running. It has triggered the machine learning service. And after triggering the machine learning service, right, this is the next thing we are doing. We are checking if the machine learning job that has started, if it has completed. If it has not completed, wait for this number of seconds. And that's why we're waiting. But then, I think, Teddy, maybe you just come over and do your presentation because this guy, the number of it's going to take like 12 minutes to 15 minutes for it to run. It's going to take like 10 to 15 minutes, but I will show you guys once it's done because we are currently at this stage and based on the condition that I did put here, it's 50 minutes because the job itself is going to take like 12 minutes. So to be on the safe side, I did put 15 minutes as the weight condition. So it's better he comes up with his own presentation. Why this long? But then if you have any other question, please feel free to ask. So we all understand cloud computing. We appreciate machine learning. I've talked about one machine learning service here. I've talked about an orchestration service here. I've talked about just bringing your code to the cloud. Don't worry about the server. AWS is good. That's what we do. Take care of those things. We all understand those concepts, right? So that means that when you want to start developing or getting into new projects, you start thinking about coming to AWS, right? Cool.
Okay, so he said the program that is currently running will take a few more minutes. So we'll just take the next speaker from AWS, who is Mr. Larry, so you can have his own session on both ends as well. So Mr. Larry, please, start. So round of applause for him as he comes. Steady, sorry. So if you do have questions for the next speaker, just keep it going so that you have his answer.
Yes,
Keep it in.
I should say keep it mute. He said it's booting. Why is it still booting? Just to add, you guys remember I said once the job is done, it's going to send a notification if it has seen a sensitive to the system and to the person in charge of governance. Just going to explaining that no, this part is actually sensitive. So there's a level of added things that we had in
Hello everyone. Good day, good afternoon everyone. I hope I'm audible enough. Okay. My name is Teddy. I'm a representative of AWS, basically. My slides are coming up. It's going to take a while, so I'm just going to do a brief introduction of what I'll be speaking on, basically, right? I'll be speaking on AI in cyber warfare. I think at that stage, everybody should be concerned about what we have currently at the world. With the news actually gotten recently from recent wars currently going on. Why that's coming up, I'm just going to make like a few examples. So, sometime last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks, there is a war currently going on. Israel versus, I don't want to use the word versus. Israel with Palestine, right? I'm not going to say what's correct or what's not. I just want to state facts, right? So something happened. Earlier this year, Israel went ahead to meet one of the manufacturers that actually manufacture radio. It's simple as radio, basically. And the manufacturer doesn't manufacture the radio actually. The manufacturer manufactures a component of the radio, the battery. Israel went ahead to kind of like add some stuff to the battery, basically, right? Because they knew this radio would be used by their counterparts. They waited patiently till that battery got into the market. Okay, thank you. They waited patiently till that battery got into the market, waited patiently till it's fully saturated in the market at the particular area they want. Then in a particular day, they triggered the bomb. This bomb affected over 2,000 people. I mean, pocket radio. The bomb affected over 2,000 people. 12 people lost their lives, right? Rest survived with injuries. Some people lost hands. The whole story. But then that brings us to what I'm going to discuss today, AI in cyber warfare. Basically, cyber warfare and how large scale it is. We might not take note or we might not see it of something of major importance, but when you look at it from a various perspective. For example, I'm going to make a random example. For example, almost everybody in Nigeria, at least 90% of the entire population who uses mobile phone uses an Android device, right? We could even go as high as 95%. And even with the Android device, most of them actually comes from some particular subset of companies. We have Itel, we have Techno, we have which one else is there? Infinix, Oraimo. But one thing most people don't know is they are all actually under the same company, just different brands. Just imagine if that company has the same power. So we are basically saying at some point we might actually try killing half of us, the entire black population. So it's a crazy start, to be honest, right? And we are yet to tell some parts of it. The detriment, what we will do, what is AI bringing into this particular field, cyber warfare. So once again, my name is Jim. We've been patient enough and my slides are out. I'll take you through the entire journey, please. Stay with me. Okay, so cyber warfare, what should we be expecting? So this is the basic content. We're going to be talking about everything on the slides. I won't want to keep you guys hold, so I might try to rush you a bit, apologies. We have introduction to AI in cyber warfare, AI history in cyber warfare. As funny as it sounds that we're saying AI is nothing new. It's still basically the same concept if you look at it, right? Well, I'm going to get to that stage. I don't want to explain now and explain all over again. But AI, history of AI in cyber warfare, AI's role in offensive cyber operations. Some of the use cases, like the one I just mentioned, the example I mentioned, challenges in AI cyber warfare, implications, what does the future hold, and how to defend against AI-driven cyber attacks. Well, this is a bit biased because kind of is tailored for enterprise a little bit, that is large scale. Then we'll come to a conclusion, then I'll welcome a couple of questions. Okay, thank you so much. So, introduction to AI in cyber warfare. Ability of computer systems to make decisions, basically that's AI. So people think of AI being far more intelligent than us. Well, in a way you could say so because the data sets they actually use to train these machines encompasses wide range of everything, right? But these data sets consist of what you and I know of. So basically, they've taken what you do every day, they're taking what you do every day, what I do every day, taking everything together and they formed it as a data set and they feed it to this machine. So basically, the AI is basically learning off you and I. Nothing new, nothing, just that now the AI could actually recollect, right? I could ask you, what did you eat yesterday? Might take you a second to get. You know, but might take you a second to get. The AI won't forget. That's just the difference now. Right? Sometimes the answer might not be consistent, everybody knows. But it won't forget, it's always there. And it just basically tries to improve. So now we know what AI is, basically, sorry, just a second. Simulation of human intelligence by coded software processes, right? But how does AI actually comes into cyber warfare? What does AI bring into cyber warfare? I've made mention of an example earlier. I'm just going to kind of bring AI into the entire picture now. AI is cyber warfare basically consists of almost everybody. When I mean everybody, countries do this thing. Sometimes you might think of it is, well, maybe an organization, a group of hackers. Movies has made us kind of think that way. But no, it has never been like that. The people who started this, the main people who started this were actually countries, not individuals. It was countries that wanted to know what the next country was doing. Wanted to basically have an idea of how to plan against them, how to hack them, how to shut them down. Just various ideas like that, right? So now, when you think of it from that perspective, you will see that AI is actually, since AI is part of one of the most developed part of tech currently, or one of the, let me say, more consistent part of tech that is actually developing more currently, you could now tell that it's actually now prevalent that they add this AI into the cyber warfare. They do it already, they do cyber warfare already from the initial beginnings. Now let's go back a couple of years. Let's see where it actually started out. How did they actually start implementing AI in cyber warfare? So let's talk about the little bit history of AI. AI fairly, I won't say is that old, 50, 60 years, give or take. So early use of AI in security started in the 1980s, where they were just using it to identify whatever came in, basically. Identify vulnerabilities, intrusion detections, and the likes. Okay, another example here. There's a movie called Imitation Game that is actually based off Alan Turing. How many of us know Alan Turing? So based off Alan Turing's kind of like story, right? It's called Imitation Game. So this is the idea. The Germans, that's the early 1940s, right? The Germans sent coded message to their spies all over the world. Other countries, the allied countries, were able to intercept these messages, but they were not able to decode the messages. They tried and tried, they were not able to decode the messages. They didn't understand how to decode the message. So if you understand how cryptography works, they just basically encode something. If I tell this to this person, or say it in this manner, only the person will be able to understand, because I've communicated earlier to the person. Say if the person says this, you have to do this. So they were getting the message, they were able to intercept, but they don't know what it means, right? Then something happened. They went to meet a mathematician, he formed a group. If you watch the Imitation Game, you understand. They created a machine. So basically, they were trying to use the machine to actually break this code. They tried and nothing was coming forth. Until a mistake somebody made. I think one of the speakers earlier on, the first speaker that actually came, mentioned something. He said, one of the issues about AI is, I mentioned that AIs are basically what we know, our own data sets. But one of the issues about AI is, it feeds off what you tell it. So, if the data set is biased, the AI is going to be biased. Are you on the same page? So, what the Germans did was, they kind of encoded it where they rotate that thing on the daily before they send the message out. But somebody, just one person, a human being, forgot to rotate his keys. And he always starts the message, same format. Are we on the same page? He always starts the message, same format. As fun as that is, or as easy as that is, it led to something down the line. So what these engineers were basically, what they actually understood, or what they could do is, they took that machine, they took only that person's code, they use it to decode the rest of everybody, because, well, they could tell or they could understand his message due to the consistency in his own. Then they use it to decipher the rest of them. So this is far back as those world wars we hear about. To tell you, AI has always been prevalent right from the onset, or basically machine of some sort has always been prevalent right from the onset to this particular age and stage that we're in. So when I say AI has been used from the early systems up to this particular point in time, now it's more prevalent. Everybody is actually quite acceptance of AI. You can see the growth of machine learning in cybersecurity across board, using historical data, basically this data set we spoke about, to adapt and understand threats. So this data set would say, this is how they attacked us. The data set, you pick the data set and say, this is how they attacked us. You feed it to the machine. And basically, if any attack is coming like that, the machine will be able to tell, it has already happened, I know what to do. But then, it's based on historical data, based on how they attacked us, right? And if you look, adaptive machine learning. Now, instead of historical data, why don't we go further? What if there are new ways they are attacking us? I want you to detect the new ways without me giving you former data that I have. You understand? So adaptive machine learning currently being used in the 2000s to this particular stage. Thank you. So the next one. So now, what is the AI roles in cyber operations? Like I said, or like I mentioned earlier on, humans have always been the one trying to do these attacks, right? Even when we call it AI, humans are in the background, the one orchestrating these attacks. But what about if we remove humans from the entire picture? Not entirely, but we substitute most of what they do for AI. What do I mean? Instead of a human going to tell the AI to do this, it is already programmed down. More precise and faster cyber attacks. Immediately, the attack is getting to somewhere, and let's say your defense is up at this point, the AI is understanding that, okay, yeah, there are other ways I could actually go around this new defense I am seeing to attack you. Right? There are other ways I could actually spin around the block, or there are new things I could actually check to actually attack and get access to your systems. Automation enabled, basically the machine knows how to do it automatically by itself. Adaptive, I made mention of, you're seeing new methods and you're boycotting the methods as you're going. The AI doesn't need to be told what to do. As you're seeing it, it's just trying to basically boycott the process at that very point in time, in real time, right? Phishing campaigns. Phishing campaigns is actually a whole lot because it happens consistently and we might not even notice. Some of us are picking up now when we say, you say hello to your friend today, you want to buy maybe anything, maybe product. Then you go to Facebook, the next thing you see, maybe products, right? So phishing campaigns, AI are used to understand what people need. Then tailor basically to attack you, social engineering based on what they know you are going to click, based on your past history, right? So AI are now used more in phishing campaigns. Even tools they used to hack are now built using AIs, right? The likes of automated vulnerability scanner, you just put it there, it starts scanning, it knows what to scan for. In case it doesn't see a particular route, it knows how to divert and still go through another route. Basically, it is automated, right? Zero-day exploit detection, automated exploit generation. Basically, it knows what data to send to break your system. Now, adaptive malware, I've made mention of adaptive. There's something else I'd like to make mention at this point, right? Just a fact so that we might understand how tricky this is. In general, when these state and non-state actors have access to your systems, and they say, when you hear somebody come to say, when Facebook come out today and say, oh, they are actors, most often than not, those people have been in Facebook system for at least over 200 days. So, just general accepted. When you are being told you're being hacked, if it's not something that is of major that they're trying to suppose something, most often times than not, they spend a huge amount of time in the system already before you could actually detect they are there. Right? They've siphoned. There was one I read of that. These people were siphoning in kilobytes over years. They spent at least up to 5-7 years in that system. Just kilobytes transferring per second. They didn't rush it. Because they knew if they did something of high traffic, you're going to notice. So they were just doing it bit by bit, over years, over time. They were there for 5 to 7 years before they detected that somebody was in the system. So probably they're already in your phone right now. You can't tell, right? So AI roles, you could tell how advanced it is and what they are going to. Now, challenges in AI, in cyber warfare, that is challenges from the AI's perspective. So as much as with what I have on the screen right now, I believe some of my colleagues, that is the speakers who came before me, have actually mentioned quite a few of them, right? One of them being, you could train the AI with the wrong data set. That was one. Another thing, the AI, if you are attacking instead of defending, right? If you are attacking, there is a way whereby, if it's an AI that is actually attacking, there is a way whereby the AI actually notes that this defense system is looking for this, then switches his own signature so that you don't notice. Basically, they do that too. So you could tell adversarial AI could be manipulated using input data, that is the data they are learning from. Model poisoning could actually allow AI misclassify objects, basically, right? But let's talk about the ethical concern. I mean, the first speaker actually mentioned the ethical concern. This is a huge bit. Autonomous weapon. When we are using AI basically for to actually take charge of weapons, and basically you say if you notice any object, fire at will. Who takes the blame? Right? If somebody dies now, for example, and you basically put an AI in charge, who would the blame be assigned to? Is it the AI that did it or the person in charge of the AI? The person in charge of the AI. But during the World War, when Hitler told people to go and kill that much, lot of people, everybody involved suffered. But Hitler was the one with the command. Right? So basically, there is an ethical aspect to it, right? Whereby who takes charge of the decision? Or at what point does a human comes in? Because humans understand empathy. AI doesn't. It's good to an extent, but it doesn't. I don't know you basically, that's AI. Okay, there's another movie, right? Sorry, I watch movies and I really know, so I might be making a lot of references. Apologies. There's another movie called Eye in the Sky. How many of us have watched it? Eye in the Sky, you've watched it, right? It's an interesting one. You see? But at some point right there, right, they were just basically told, this person is here, we want to kill this person. The instructions are simple and clear. I don't want to know if the person is with his family or not. This person is here, we want to kill this person. Simple instructions, and it was fed to the guy, basically. But there was a little kid playing nearby. The guy didn't want to fire because the little kid was within the blast range. And the guy tried to wait until that kid actually left the blast range. But at that point, you think if it was an AI, you think it would have waited. So you could understand when I mean AI doesn't understand empathy. We give it instructions, it might try to understand to a particular extent, but its major goal right now is to basically execute the given instructions to its best of his own understanding. So, and let's say he executes the instructions by killing the little kid, although the guy ended up killing the kid though. Let's say he executes that instruction by killing the little kid. Who takes blame for that action? The AI in charge or the human? I'll leave it to you basically. So we will leave that to I'll leave it to you, your conscience. We'll leave that to the human control, right? Data privacy. I mean, I mentioned the fact that this data set comes from you and me. Basically everything everybody has been putting on the internet, they went to get it, they crawled everything basically, scraped everything, used it to train their model. But you did not give them permission. As much as you might be using it to benefit you, they are getting money from what you worked for. From what you wrote, you didn't give them permission. So basically, there's a little bit concern about data privacy there. And arms race, right? It has gotten to this stage whereby it's a competition for countries. For everybody involved, state and non-state actors, right? From the very beginning, for most large countries, Nigeria included, everything has to be a competition, right? The bigger cache of weapon you have, the better you stand, or the more order you control. It's a consistent and it's a given, right? Now, it has also, the same is also applying to AI now. It's an arms race. People are trying to buy more, build more bigger weapons, so that they'll be able to attack better and say, okay, the next person can actually talk to me anyhow. Why? Because I have something bigger and better. Right? Thank you. So implications, right, across board, the implications that this has actually caused. Strategic investment for cyber warfare, for AI in cyber warfare. Most often than not, we might actually not see the bigger picture. I'm going to make a very huge example. Everybody here probably has heard about ChatGPT at some point, right? Everybody has heard of ChatGPT or interacted with ChatGPT at some point. One thing you should note is ChatGPT actually got billions of investments. I mean, if it's not the biggest, ChatGPT actually got billions of investments for most major actors, right? Even for Microsoft. I think Microsoft, Elon Musk, everybody contributed at the initial start. And when I mean contributed, these people pledged billions and went through with it because they need GPU to actually train the data. So strategic investment for AI in cyber warfare. Countries are now trying to do the same. US, Russia, everybody trying to do the same. AI in offensive cyber operations. I mentioned the various offensive cyber operations you might have. People are including AI in them, even in defensive part of it, right? And also, this is bringing us to a rapid technological advancement. Basically, the technology is improving as fast as it can. But there is a drawback here, right? The first presenter that went first, right, mentioned the ethical part of the data, the ethical part of AI. One thing that is the drawback is technology is advancing, but since it is a new phase, something new, we don't have the policy for that yet. Our policies are still trying to catch up. Now, what does that mean? Basically, UN started after the World War, right? After they fought and killed millions, most of them came together and said, it doesn't make sense to kill ourselves. Let's band together and let's have an authoritative figure and say, okay, if anything is going to happen, this is who is going to give command and say, sorry, that was an announcement. Apologies. That was an announcement, sorry. So, UN came together after they've dealt and killed millions, right? Now, that's the case. More often than not, the policies come after it has happened. Technological advancement is great, but it's going too much of a fast pace that our policies are barely meeting up. It's a new world, right? So basically, until something new happened, when the whole idea of data privacy came after, they started doing all these scraping free data from the internet and using that data to train models, and people were like, okay, let's create a policy to stop you from doing that. You understand? It always comes after the initial beginnings. So you could tell that rapid technological advancements, in turn, our policy is still lagging behind on stuff like this, right? Global security policies need for international AI cyber warfare regulations. If you were here yesterday, basically the police commissioner was here in charge of cyber security, and he was actually mentioning this, right? He mentioned the fact that he is in charge of basically the entire African Interpol. Was it Interpol? Apologies. Yes, right. So the entire Interpol, basically they bound together and they share information with cyber security across all nations. He said he went to Japan like 2 weeks period or so, that they had to share information to actually catch some basic fraudsters in Nigeria here. You will see. So there is global security policies across board. There is need for international bodies to come together to actually make this basically come together and band together and say, okay, these are the rules and regulations that we should meet. And that very good example, if you look at it, is the nuclear warheads, basically. After most of the large countries have actually enhanced their nuclear warhead, that was when they actually start affecting the policy, saying nobody else should build. If you have to build, everybody has to come together and approve you. But it was after they have done their bit and they have made sure that they had enough cash, right? So these things are scenarios whereby policies catches up later after the deed has been done, especially for most of them who has the money and the willpower to go through. Challenges in enforcement, challenges in enforcement. We are not saying they're not going to be enforcement, but it's very hard to enforce these stuff on world powers, the likes of US and the rest. It's very, very hard to actually enforce the likes of this stuff for world powers. It's slow. You can't tell them what to do, but they could actually come and tell you what to do, right? Even if you're not in world power. So enforcement is very tricky when they actually control the majority stake of these international bodies, right? Global efforts towards regulation, they are still trying to get out, regardless, right? So, a basic idea on how to defend against AI-driven cyber attacks. This is where we are at currently. We know AI could attack, we know we are actually including AI in these various aspects of attack. How do we defend against them? Well, for one, AI to counter AI versus AI. The very beginning, right? AI-powered threat detection. You could tell they use AI to actually detect various threats that is actually coming in from various AIs. Make the best AI win. Adaptive AI systems are actually learn on the spot. Behavioral analysis, automating threat response, so that immediately there is a threat, your AI knows what to do and basically triggers that response at that particular point in time. Another example, this is actually used across board, right? Used across board for various weaponries. For various weaponries across board. When you look at it, right, including fighter jets and the likes, all these are embedded in them. Importance of human AI collaboration in defense. Remember, like I said earlier on, right, who will take the blame? Is it the human or the AI? When it comes to critical or important decisions, you should look at using AI as an argumenter, right? Like the first speaker made mention of. AI is not going to take over. They are just supposed to supplement whatever you do, right? Let the critical decisions be up to you, not them, right? Trust and basically trust the AI and trust the various AI models. So future trends. Where we are currently is great. We are using AI. I mean, 10 years ago, if they told you about AI will be this widespread, you might say, nah, we're not there yet. But we're there currently. What does the future hold? I really didn't want to answer that. I wanted to leave it to us to basically determine. But let me just give us a hint. As much as great or as good as we say we are currently, there is also quantum. Far, far better, far, far greater, far, far scalable. Like those things a million times faster than what we currently are doing. So, what does the future hold? If we actually can't implement those regulations now, how are we actually going to fight something that is far faster and far better than what we currently have? Basically, that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Can we give Mr. James a round of applause, please? Yeah. He was very, very detailed, very expressive, and I think I learned a lot. I wish I could keep it for more longer time, but very unfortunate, I can't do that. So I will entertain one or two questions. So if you've got any questions for Mr. James, can I see you, raise up your hands, please. If you've got any questions for Mr. James, okay, that's fine.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. You started by mentioning about what's happening in Israel and Lebanon cases. From the detail I got, will it be right for you to call it like a cyber warfare? Because I think they ordered walkie-talkies, and one of the walkie-talkies battery, they change it and put explosive device. So the trigger, what triggers that explosive device is not external. I think when you power it on, it's not that like a message is sent. You understand? So assuming that is the case, will you call it a cyber warfare?
Okay, thank you. I was just basically using that as an example to keep time initially. I wasn't supposed to. Yes, I would actually call it a cyber warfare, right? Because now there's something we should actually note here. The trigger wasn't actually when you power it on. They had this thing, I think they had planned this thing 6-7 months in advance. They triggered everything on the same day. It was triggered in a day, basically, right? So one thing first is, I think they had their targets. We should consider this a cyber warfare because it's something that is unprecedented. And when it comes to when you look at it, basically, it's from a state actor to another state. See, it is so complicated, right? I really didn't want to dwell on it, but for me, I think Israel actually has to be, in a way, Israel actually has to be punished for that, right? Because if this is left undone, you're basically telling everybody you could explore that possibility. The example I made about the transition phones we actually had Android, at least, let me say 80% of Nigerians use Itel, Infinix, Techno, or Oraimo. Imagine if they did the same. We are saying basically they could attack at least 10 million people in Nigeria alone, based on a trigger. Isn't that a cyber warfare against large-scale population at a certain goal, basically, right? But then I would leave it to basically the political bodies to determine what is right and what is not.
Thank you very much. The last question.
Thank you, sir. I think when he came up, he shows that he was not really shy. It was rather, I mean, the mic that even our moderator, other people asking questions have been using was almost like busting our ears. So thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate and learn from it. But since you work together with him, that's why I really want to ask this question. AWS, people are trying to go into AI, people are trying to go into cloud computing. How do we ensure that, and we hear of data breaches here and there. If it's not, within us, at least from, what I mean is, if it's not insider related, at least it will also be from a third-party application. So how do we safeguard this? How are we going to ensure that for instance, you was feeding in data and was getting alert, was getting other things. I was thinking my own house should be my own. You understand? Now I am entrusting my data, my details, and my PID to a third party. How am I going to be sure that I'm covered? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. What assurance that the data is still in your hand?
Okay. Before I answer that, right, two things, right? This is me being a bit biased. But I would like to say this: what will happen will happen. What is bound to happen will happen at some point, right? But yeah, you could take preventive measures. But at some point, you should know that there's always exploits that they could actually do to this particular preventive measure. Now, when you're mentioning something, I remembered an example I read about, right? So, they were young boys, I think 17, 18, right? And they were doing DDoS attacks. And they were using IoT devices, people's security cameras basically, connected to the internet. They were using it to attack anybody they want to. They were providing DDoS as a service. So you come, you hire me to attack somebody, I will use my own device too. And these are your personal devices that are in your homes. So to tell you, even if you have them personal, it doesn't really matter. But you could try to secure to a particular extent. So there are guidelines AWS have, right? There are guidelines AWS have that they use to actually protect data. So these guidelines they actually tend to give to these customers that actually come on board. It is called, there are two kinds of security basically when it comes to AWS. There is security of the cloud and there is security in the cloud. AWS is assuring you that nothing is going to touch your data. But at the same point, AWS is going to let you know that if you give somebody permission to your data, you can't hold them accountable. You understand? So basically, that is why you need to, when you're talking about your data, you're talking about your PID, any kind of data, you need to be constantly aware of where you're sharing this data, who you're sharing it with, what kind of app are you registering on. Basically, these apps have all those long details that they say, do you accept? Basically, you are boycotting. They are having access to your data, right? At some point, it was so rampant in Nigeria that these loan apps were able to actually access our contact and go and meet somebody on my contact and telling them that I'm owing money, which is not supposed to be. It was until it became like widespread and the government stepped in to say you could actually sue these loan apps, and the government actually started playing or reinforcing these stuff that they actually cooled off on that, basically. So, and it is due to the fact that part of all those things we don't read and we press accept, they hid it there. You understand? So when we are talking about your data, you should be consistent of, if you're talking about data of things you're actually registering on, look at who you're registering with. Don't just go and put your data or give your data and sign up anywhere because they need you to sign up before you access their services, right? Make sure they are reliable. And if you are building an infrastructure on AWS, is entirely reliable. That is what AWS is going to tell you. But who you give access to, if you have other people you're working with, who you give access to, is up to you, not up to them. You can't hold them responsible to that, right? So basically, that's the idea behind this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last question. You have a question?
Yes, thanks. Just to really help. When the man asks about whether that is cyber warfare, that is actually cyber warfare. When we see the way Stopnet work or the Uranium cyber weapon, which stayed in the system for about 8 months before it was triggered. So that's also cyber warfare. Now going back to the question you kept asking and you actually prefer answer from your head, and my position is the fact that the human should be held responsible. It's in the fact that there's a key principle when we talk about AI, which is number one, the respect for human. That respect for human is based on the principle of normal defense, of do not harm. Robot or AI is built on the principle that do not harm. So once you build a system that is to harm, you don't hold that system responsible for the initiator, which is the human that built the system, and that's my question. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. John. Do not have.
All right. Thank you very much for that presentation. You mentioned something that made me ask questions using the IoTs to attack. Okay, I didn't want to go back to the Israeli thing, whether it's a warfare or not, cyber warfare or not. But I'm talking about looking at cyber warfare. When does it become a cyber warfare? You talked about I can tell someone to attack on my behalf, right? Using the IoTs, use the camera as an example. One of my biggest concerns in Nigeria is remote CCTV control and attacks. It has become something. I do CCTV, so sometimes when I do these things, I say, where is our data? In the Chinese hands. The Chinese are in our homes. So the Chinese can decide to use whatever they have to drop us down. Now, but my question is that when does it become a cyber warfare? And when is it just an attack? At what point do you define an attack as a cyber warfare? You know, because it's important for us to understand, for some persons who are involved in national security, to begin to think beyond just a single attack. When we begin to say, okay, this is going beyond breaches, personal attack, to something people are sitting down like what you talk about this right. When do we begin to look at it as a cyber warfare?
Thank you for that, right? I have your answer in my head, but before I actually give your answer, I want to actually attend to something you said earlier. I want to put an example of something that is actually happening in real life. So, I think we all know right now that given what happened like months ago where the whole network of Nigeria was down and fiber lines were cut, everybody now knows that our data actually transfers through fiber lines to the various parts of the world, right? Now, I kid you not, do you believe that different states or different state actors, the ones I know of, I know US have done it, Russia has done it. So these US actors, they send people, submarine divers, that dive deep down to tap whenever they are passing through that fiber cables. So they tap it to get data, to understand what people are sending to each other, right? So it's a huge possibility, right? I'm just trying to just bring how widespread it actually is that people don't know. But now, to answer your question, when does it become cyber attack and when does it become a cyber warfare? I would say at the point of attack, that is when you might actually consider it a cyber warfare. Be it whether they attack you, or as a person, or as a nation, or as an organization. Now, think of it this way. When you say, probably they've not attacked you yet, they're trying to gather the data from you. That is still cyber warfare because it is not something you knew of. Right? It's kind of like, it's passive. It's not something you knew of. They are just stealing from you. Now, let's say it is you, we are not basically taking it serious, right? But now let me turn it up a notch. the attack I mentioned where I said they were in the system for how many years? 7, 8 years. It was a university that was doing research, drug research. So they were stealing that research for years. But were they attacking? Were they doing anything? No. They were just stealing it. And they were basically cloning it. Now, so at the very beginning, it's actually a cyber attack because we didn't really sign on that. You understand? So it's always there passively. So people might not totally call it out as a cyber warfare because, well, it's not being widespread, it's not being wide large scale, but it is still what it is. I mean, if you take a meeting report, they're not going to prosecute you. But if you steal money, definitely they might. You understand? But it's still stealing regardless. I'm not saying on that. So thank you for that, basically.
Thank you very much. So we will spend 1 to 2 minutes to have this last bit. Then we go to lunch.
I will try.
So we're going to go to lunch after this 2 minutes. Then by 3 o'clock, we'll be back here after our lunch. Is that okay? Thank you very much.
Actually, I can speak louder now because I'm more familiar with you guys. You guys cannot hear me. I have a very deep voice. Sorry. Okay. So this is what I want to show you guys. We had run a job earlier on to check for the PIs, that's the identifiable data, right? And if you notice, the logic behind it was that if there is a file containing those PIs, it should move it into another bucket. And if those files are clean, it should move it into another storage bucket, right? So if you see here, this is our state machine, the step function, which is the orchestration tool that successfully completed the whole action. Now, this was our initial bucket. This was our initial bucket, which is now empty. We moved those files, both the clean and the unclean one. The clean one is here. The unclean one is here in the quarantine bucket. The unclean one, the 2 files that were uploaded are clean. They are both here in the scan bucket. So basically, what we just try to illustrate is that as a company, right, you definitely collect data from people from different sources, right? And there are laws that guide data collection, even for payments, for health, and all that. You can incorporate these machine learning services on AWS. This is just an example of a machine learning service that could look into the data that you are getting, review those data if you are going against those laws, push them into somewhere for someone in your company to review them, and then you take the necessary actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you know after your lunch, you won't come back. Don't take food home. Please, let's come back after the lunch. We still have a lot of fantastic sessions. We have panel sessions. Then we have another very technical presentation that I think you will enjoy. Thank you very much.